a manifesto for a return to the gold standard. At 2:41 p.m. on the afternoon of the 8th of June 2022, Reuters, the international news company, broke the story that a deposit of 31 million metric tons of gold ore had been found in Uganda. Furthermore, an estimated quantity 320,000 metric tons of pure gold could be extracted from it. At 2022 prices, the gold would be worth $12 trillion. Reuters is one of the largest news agencies in the world. For 172 years, the company has built a reputation for reliability, accuracy and speed. Reuters is a trusted source of news. Microsoft Network News published the story on the same day, and several other news websites followed over the next few days. All these web pages are still online, and none of these news outlets have retracted the story. Reuters interviewed Solomon Muyita, spokesperson for the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, who said that after 2 years of aerial exploration, followed by geophysical and geochemical surveys, 31 million tons of gold ore had been discovered, from which he said, an estimated 320,158 metric tons of refined gold could be extracted. The news had been broken by the president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, in his State of the Nation address. The Chinese-run company, Wagagai, has a 20-year lease to mine and refine the gold. The Chinese have invested $200 million into the project and will start exporting refined gold at a rate of at least 5 metric tons a day. Wagagai has been granted the status of a licensed private free zone, which means that the company has no import duty to pay on any mining or gold refining equipment and no export tax to pay on the refined gold which is sent to China. So just how much is 320,000 tons of pure gold? According to the World Gold Council, the global gold reserves are estimated to be around 205,238 metric tons, with a value of $10.8 trillion at the end of 2021, the most recent figures available. So all the existing gold, all over the world, all the gold that has been discovered in the last 5,000 years, and that equates to a solid cube of gold just 22 meters high. And if all the newly discovered gold that is to be mined in Uganda by the Chinese, 320,000 metric tons of it, was put into a second cube, it would stand 24.7 meters high, just a little bit taller than all the existing gold in the world. And what effect will all this newfound gold have on the price of gold? Gold experts Aaron Hodinott and Alexander Smith of Pinnacle Digest agree that if the stories about the new gold deposits are true, then the price of gold would plummet. As the amount of a rare commodity doubles, so the price goes down, with some experts saying that the price of gold would drop by 50% overnight. The effect on the gold market would be a reverse Goldfinger, which is a reference to the James Bond film Goldfinger, where the villain, Auric Goldfinger, plans to detonate an atomic bomb inside Fort Knox to make all the US gold radioactive for hundreds of years, so that the price of his own personal hoard of gold will go up tenfold. Goldfinger is a fantasy, and many people hearing the news about the newfound gold deposits in Africa would like to believe that these stories are also just fantasy, just lies, fake news. Even Britain's doyen of gold, Dominic Frisby, believes it may all just be a scam. Let's consider the options. Either the president of Uganda is telling very big fibs, having announced the news of the gold in his State of the Nation address to the people of Uganda and to the world. Certainly, he is the highest authority for the news in Uganda, so it is officially true. The news has never been redacted, or denied, or amended, and the only website that has buried the story had the headline that read Uganda's discovery of 31 million tons of gold ore and what it could mean for the world gold market. The story has now been hidden behind a paywall. Yet after the first announcement there has been no further news. Could it be that the Chinese, at first delighted with their discovery and pleased to announce to the world, quickly realized that if they doubled the amount of gold, it would cause the global price to halve, in which case it would not be worthwhile digging it up and refining it at great expense and effort? Is it an exaggeration? Gold experts are quick to point out that the yield of 320,000 tons of pure gold from 31 million tons of ore sounds very optimistic. It is generally accepted that the average gold ore contains between 5 and 10 grams of pure gold per metric ton of ore, so at best one might expect 310 tons of pure gold, not 320,000 tons. Did the Chinese and African experts get their decimal point in the wrong place? Or is the new-found ore so rich in gold that a yield of 320,158 tons is a realistic estimate? What if the news is actually true? If the new-found gold deposits were released onto the global gold markets, the price of gold would fall, perhaps to half the current value. The option to try to keep the gold secret is only likely to work for the short term, but if the new gold can be quarantined, or somehow isolated from the rest of gold in the marketplace, could the global value of all the existing gold be maintained? This would be the Goldfinger solution, but without the radiation making the gold toxic for hundreds of years. One solution could be to sequester this newfound gold for a new type of banknote that would encompass a return to the gold standard by incorporating a thin foil of pure gold into each banknote. Under the classical gold standard, a banknote could be exchanged for a quantity of pure gold. That worked fine until governments around the world decided they would stop exchanging their banknotes for gold and silver and declared that the paper money had value by diktat, by fiat, from the Latin meaning let it be done. In other words, fiat currency is value because governments say it does, and because you can pay your taxes with it. Under the new gold standard, the holder of the banknote would not be in possession of a promise that the note would in the future be exchanged for gold, because the banknote would already have the gold on board. The promise has already been fulfilled. The banknotes would thereby be transformed from documents that have no intrinsic value into containers that protect and authenticate measures of gold, which is perceived to have real value, that has been established in the human psyche over the last 5,000 years. These banknotes would be in high demand because of the added value of authentication bestowed upon the gold they contain. Anyone who has purchased a gold bar, from a gram to a troy ounce, knows that one of the main issues is trust, that the gold is authentic and pure. One of the most popular gold bars is the Kini bar, from Arga Heraeus, which has a kinigram feature. The kinigram is an optically variable device, OVD, a microscopic engraving that diffracts light, to provide a distinctive, animated feature. It is a bit like a hologram, but very bright and very kinetic, hence the name. The kinigram OVD provides a level of trust that the gold is genuine, and buyers in the secondary market will pay 30% to 50% over the melt value of the gold for this extra assurance. A quick look at historical sales on eBay shows that gold bars with this feature are in high demand even with this level of markup. Imagine a banknote sandwich where the middle layer is pure gold less than 10 microns thick, authenticated with a kinigram or similar glazed grating structure. The two outer layers are polymer banknote plastic, each 50 microns thick, to provide a total thickness, 110 microns. 110 microns is a standard thickness for banknotes such as the USA $100 dollar bill, made of cotton paper, the European euro banknotes and the British pound sterling notes, which are made of plastic. Gold is the perfect material. Gold will not tarnish, rust, or corrode. Gold has a high melting point, at over 1,000 degrees centigrade. Gold is the most ductile metal. It can be beaten to a thickness of just 100 nanometers, less than the wavelength of visible light, violet, which is 400 nanometers. At 100 nanometers, gold becomes semi-transparent. A typical banknote is just over 15 centimeters by just over 7 centimeters. US $100 dollar bill is 15.6 centimeters long by 6.63 centimeters wide. A cube of gold 1 by 1 x 1 centimeter equals 19.282 grams. If we divide the cube into 90 slices, we can arrange them as a grid 15 centimeters by 6 centimeters. At this point the foil would be too thick at 111 microns thickness. If we choose 1 gram of gold to be the appropriate amount for one banknote, given that the price of 1 gram today is £50 or about $60, and if we spread it over an area 15 centimeters by 6 centimeters, it would have a thickness of about 5.76 microns. This gold foil, sandwiched between 2 layers of polymer each about 50 microns thick, would give a standard 110 microns thick banknote. Polymer banknotes are made up of biaxially oriented polypropylene or BOP films. The material is made by blowing a gigantic bubble of plastic, 20 meters high. The bubble is so large that it has to be formed in a specially made building, with a bubble chamber in the center of a wide circular shaft, so that the polymer can be blown from the top to the bottom of the building. The process starts with pellets of clear plastic that are melted at 250 degrees centigrade and cooled by jets of water as the liquid plastic cascades downwards. By keeping the bubble at a constant internal pressure, the delicate plastic membrane is maintained at a uniform thickness. Banknote made of BOP are claimed to be more secure, more durable, cleaner and even greener than paper banknotes, which are actually made of about 80% cotton. The proposal is that a thin layer of pure gold, less than 10 microns thick, is sandwiched between 2 layers of each of clear polypropylene about 50 microns thick, whilst the material is in rolls prior to sheeting. Several security features such as thin transfer foils can also be applied at this stage, or they could be applied onto the gold foil before it is sandwiched between the layers of clear BOP. Ideally, the gold foil will be selectively flattened in gutters that correspond to the edges of the banknotes, so that the thickness tapers off to about 3 microns or less, making it very difficult to remove the gold leaf intact from the final banknote. A polymer banknote is made up of layers of clear film which are then coated with opaque white layers in selected areas, leaving other areas transparent to form windows. In this case, the windows will show through to the gold foil layer, which will be authenticated with security features, such as a kinegram OVD feature, or a similar glazed grating. Alternatively, rather than being a continuous gold foil layer, going from edge to edge of the banknote, the gold layer may have shapes removed by kiss cutting or laser cutting to create clear windows, before being applied to the first layer of BOP. Here the large oval window lets the gold show through, whilst the 3 smaller windows correspond with shapes cut out of the gold foil, to form transparent windows. Ideally, these contain transparent and translucent OVD features. The addition of less than 10 microns of gold foil between 2 standard layers of polymer should not affect any of the normal banknote printing, which takes place after the substrate has been cut into sheets. Banknotes have to be resistant to a range of tests, such as the crumple test and abrasion test, and resistance to a range of chemicals, including synthetic human sweat. However, the addition of less than 10 microns of gold foil between 2 50-micron layers of polypropylene should not affect performance, as gold is a dense, ductile metal with high corrosion resistance. The role of security features on the new golden banknotes will be slightly different than their function on fiat banknotes. On fiat currency, security features are there to protect an idea, a promise to pay. Their function to authenticate, rather than to protect, because the features are actually only protecting a sheet of paper or plastic. Now that the banknote is a package containing a commodity of value or perceived value, security features will have the added task of protecting the contents from removal and substitution. In case someone thinks they can remove the genuine gold foil and replace it with a colored aluminium foil or a yellow plastic foil, the security features have to be constructed so that, whilst being as robust as possible, they will fracture in a tamper-evident fashion when an attempt is made to remove the outer layers of polypropylene. For example, rather than a kinegram that is embossed directly onto the gold, the OVD should be applied to the gold foil as a thin transfer foil, less than 3 microns thick, so that it is impossible to remove intact. Security features that work through the synchronization of several layers, such as a micro-lenticulars and flies eye arrays, can provide OVDs that are robust enough for banknotes, but would delaminate, rather than permit intact removal, in the case of tampering with the banknote. One excellent example of a microlenticular security device, invented by Paul Sullivan at Polaroid, was called Polaproof. This was a self-adhesive label that exhibited a strong image switching effect from positive to negative, or changed one color to another, to authenticate luxury items, such as expensive watches. If one tried to unpeel the label, to stick it onto a fake product, the top layer, which had all the microlenticular lenses, came away, destroying the optically variable effect. Features that are already used in banknotes such as cinema and motion could be adapted to make tamper-evident structures. Likewise, all thin foils, such as embossed rainbow hologram foils or diffraction grating foils and even reflection hologram foils could be utilized to ensure that they cannot be removed intact. All the standard security features used to authenticate fiat currency banknotes would, of course, play their part authenticating the new golden banknotes. By using the very latest and most secure authentication features, the banknotes would be authenticating not just the plastic note itself, but also the gold that is contained within the banknote. Because the gold foil in the banknote is authenticated by the security features, it has extra value. The gold in the banknote would be worth at least 20% more than the melt price of gold on the general market. Because fiat banknotes have no intrinsic value, printing costs are kept to a minimum, governments around the world paying as little as they can for them. Even notes that include high security features, such as the $100 dollar bill, are printed at just $170 per 1,000 banknotes, just 17 cents per note. In the case of the golden banknotes, the very best security features would be required, because instead of just protecting a promise to pay the bearer, these new notes would be protecting and authenticating pure gold. And because the value of authenticated gold is greater than the melt price of gold, there would actually be a budget to pay for the highest level of banknote printing and the most secure features. For example, in 2022 the average price of gold was $60 for 1 gram. Just 1% of that value would provide 60 cents per note as the budget for printing with the very best and most expensive security features. That's 3 times the typical printing budget for a high-denomination banknote. Governments and banks like electronic money because there are no costs for printing, storing or transporting it. They don't like physical cash because they have to actually pay money to create it and then look after it. They even have to pay money to recycle or destroy banknotes when they have become worn, torn or too dirty to use. The avalanche of money that was created after the 15th of August 1971, when the USA came off the gold standard, shows no sign of abating. The curve shows exponential growth. Governments create value out of thin air by the act of seigniorage, and with every new dollar created they devalue the worth of all the dollars in existence. The new golden banknotes would not offer the same returns to the issuing government as fiat currency, which are essentially 100% profit, but their objective is not create artificial wealth by inflation, but rather to maintain the value of gold by authentication. The golden banknotes will always be in demand and can command a price over the current melt price of gold, to cover the costs of storing and transporting the banknotes. In the USA, in 2020 M1 money supply surged from $4,000 billion to $21,000 billion, each new dollar making all the existing dollars more worthless. For this reason, the golden banknotes would have the highest liquidity over all the other currencies in the world, because all the others are fiat currencies. Unlike large denomination fiat notes, such as the $100, that are used as a store of value, golden banknotes would not be eroded by the inflation caused by the mass printing of fiat currencies. They would actually increase in value at that same rate. Every person, in every country in the world, would be happy to exchange their fiat currency for some of the new golden banknotes. Last year, in 2022, China was 6th in the global gold ranking, with 1,948.31 tons of gold, whilst the United States was holding the most gold, with 8,133.46 tons, 4 times more gold than China. But the addition of 320,000 tons of pure gold to the bullion vaults of China would transform the global balance of gold power, because China would have more gold than all the other countries in the world put together. All the other countries combined hold about 29,000 tons in total, whilst China's reserves would be about 322,000 tons, when they have mined and refined all the new gold. That's more than 10 times all the other countries combined. What else could they do with all this gold? Well, normally governments just make it into bars and store it in a vault and forget about it. But by issuing golden banknotes, China would provide a new and powerful savings medium for Chinese citizens, which would exist alongside the fiat currency system of China, the renminbi, which means the people's money, or the Chinese yuan. We are told that Chinese-run firm, Wagagai, expects to mine and start refining at least 5,000 kilograms of gold a day. That's 5 metric tons a day. And they only have a 20-year lease, so if they want to extract it all inside the contract term, they will need to ramp up production by 9 times over the coming months. Assuming that they can ramp up their mining and refining to extract all the gold within the contract term of 20 years, added to their existing gold reserves, China would have over 322,000 metric tons of gold, sufficient to make over 300 billion banknotes with 1 gram of gold in each banknote. If China announced that an addition of 100 billion golden banknotes will be made in total, people would understand that, like Bitcoin, they will take time to mine, but that they will all be mined eventually. A Bitcoin address or public key is a unique string of letters and numbers that is generated using a complex mathematical algorithm based on public key cryptography. It is used to send and receive transactions on the Bitcoin network, and it allows users to remain anonymous while still allowing others to confirm their transactions. If China announces that a set of 100 billion golden banknotes will be created and assigns unique alphanumeric code to each banknote, then like Bitcoin, they can have a virtual existence prior to being physically created. If each physical banknote is printed with a unique 2D barcode, A, which is individually printed on the banknote, or it could be laser ablated into the BOP layer, or into a foil layer, that unique code can be linked to a unique feature, B, on the note. The unique feature could be a printed feature, working like the EU Ryan constellation feature, except that it is unique to each banknote. Or the unique feature could be made up of fibers and planchettes deposited in an arbitrary manner. Basically, small elements that would show up on a photograph, taken by a mobile phone of the patch area. The unique feature, B, would be linked to the previously assigned unique alphanumeric code. When the banknote is in circulation, it can be verified, using a mobile phone app, via the 2D barcode. When the user takes a photograph of the unique feature B, the app will confirm the last 5 digits of the long alphanumeric code. Assuming that the news about the 31 million metric tons of gold and, more importantly, the 320,000 metric tons of refined gold that could be extracted are true, would the world gold market accept the Goldfinger solution, and agree that all this newfound gold can be considered quarantined away, isolated from the market, for making 100 billion golden banknotes? Well, they just might, because it would be in the interest of all individuals, companies and governments with existing gold stocks to go along with this proposal, rather than watch their stocks of gold plummet in value. And in the event that the price of gold falls dramatically, of all the gold in the world, the gold inside the new golden banknotes would be the least devalued, because authenticated gold will always sell at a premium. Thank you for listening.